Good evening and welcome to the fifth session of One by One Gupshup, hosted by the Rajasthan and Gujarat chapters of the Indian Society of Landscape Architects. I hope all of you are keeping well. Today we have with us Mr. Swayam Prakash Mohanty from Bhubaneswar. Swayam Prakash Mohanty is a landscape architect and architect with experience in landscape design, hospitality, and residential projects. He has a Masters of Landscape Architecture from State University in Ahmedabad. Swayam is employed at the IBI Group, which is an international MNC, and stationed at Bhubaneswar. He is currently Senior Landscape Architect for IBI and heading placemaking, open space, and heritage preservation in the Bhubaneswar Urban Knowledge Center for the Bhubaneswar Development Authority. Mr. Mohanty has worked on a number of projects involving planning of spaces from a child-friendly perspective. Today we will see some of his works. These include parks, streetscape, placemaking, and urban design. Thank you for joining us today, Swayam. Hello, Swayam.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Hi. I request you to present your work.
Sure.
Welcome.
Yeah. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So hi guys. So I'm currently working for Bhubaneswar Urban Knowledge Center, which is actually like we are employed with the Bhubaneswar Development Authority, and we are serving all city agencies that are there. So IBI is like we are the PMC, the project management consultants for Bhubaneswar Development Authority, and we were part of the smart city vision of Bhubaneswar. And one of the main things that Bhubaneswar did in its smart city mission, one was the eco city, where we are talking about resilience, and second was the child-friendly city, where we are looking at things from the perspective of a child. It was called the Urban 95, where we are looking at things from a child of 95 centimeters, that is around 3 to 4 years, who can move around the city with them. So that is what we are trying to project in Bhubaneswar right now. So in Bhubaneswar Urban Knowledge Center, we are working with development authorities, municipal corporations, the Smart City Limited office, and many other offices in other cities also like Cuttack and Puri. With our placemaking, open space, and heritage preservation. So that is what I am the domain manager for over here. One of the main things that we are working on right now is the citywide parks and open space master plan, which I'll be presenting today. We are also working on urban design plans and heritage conservation master plans for Bhubaneswar right now. I'll just go ahead with the parks and open space master plan right now. So this is projected for 2041. So Bhubaneswar, as we know, it's like a very green city. So three things that Bhubaneswar is known for. One is temples, one is trees, and the last one is cyclones. So, so the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, it is actually the first ever attempt that is made in India, at least for a smart city. So as like, I'll just go for a brief thing about Bhubaneswar. We were known as Ekamra Kshetra, which was started off as the one mango. So we actually have our roots in nature itself, the one mango tree. So Ekamra Kshetra, the area of the one mango tree. With that, we can see over here. So these were the earliest settlements that has been recorded for Bhubaneswar. This was the old temple city, and these are smaller caves, which were like the Buddhist caves over there. And this is the current state of Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar has been increasing all along. There is a forest up here, which has also a part of a sanctuary, elephant sanctuary. And along with that, we are actually surrounded by rivers and smaller tributaries of the Mahanadi, where we have the Daya River, which is crossing us on the east side. So I'll just talk about the development of Bhubaneswar. So towards the northern side of Bhubaneswar, we actually have a lot of IT infrastructure development. Towards this northwestern side, we have a lot of jungles and sanctuary, but also urbanization is rapidly developing towards the northwestern side. So actually, if you see, with the population of around 10 lakhs, we are a pretty big city. but we are still a tier 2 city. So as per of the soil conditions, we are around like laterite soil, so more or less high iron content. Also biodiversity, since we have 2 forests right within our municipal boundary, so around 20% of Bhubaneswar development plan area, it is under forest and vegetation use. Along with that, about the water part, so we have a lot of drains like which are actually running through the entire city. So as some people might know, so Bhubaneswar are actually planned as a garden city, Ebenezer Howard thing. So but later on, like the later planners, they actually ignored the entire thing. But still, we have quite a lot of gardens because I think so people love it over here with around 220 playgrounds and 120 parks that we have over here. So 2.6% of BDPA is also covered up with water, the Bhubaneswar Development Plan area. Also, one of the main things about Bhubaneswar is the culture. So with the culture, we are also known as the temple city of India. So temple city isn't like, we also have our, on the southern side over here, we have the old town area, which is famous for the temples and the culture. Also within the newer city, we have city festivals which are happening. We have a lot of like Durga Puja is also a part of, major part of Odisha. We have a lot of educational institutions which have their own charm on the northern side, and some caves of the Buddhist and Jain caves on the southern side. So this is a regular park in Bhubaneswar. Like why I said it is retrofitting the smart city, because we already have parks, but now we are trying to make them into smart parks, which is a very difficult job by itself. So by 2016, when we started, we worked a lot. But then again in 2019, funny happened. And I was again given a clean slate to work with, because most of the things that I had made, many of them got destroyed in this process. So right now, like why we need a master plan, it is because one is the thing is resilience, that we really need to have resilience in our parks and open space master plan. But at the same time, what is happening is the development is being concentrated in the central areas and with areas where there is high population. So out of 67 wards of municipal wards that we have, around 29 had no parks when we started. Right now, we have already built in 3 of them, so the number has decreased to 26. And also, there is a huge data gap, as in the city agencies, they also don't know which are the open spaces they have and which have been developed by them into parks or by Resident Welfare Association into parks. So what is going to be the use of the parks and open space master plan? It is, one is the sustainable development, where we are talking about everyone should have access to open space, and that is going to increase your quality of life. And also it is going to boost up property values. It is going to boost tourism. Like we have a lot of city level parks which are good, like more than 10 to 15 acre parks, which are like points of destination for tourists. For citizens, it is going to be like natural and built, because you need access to open space for health and culture and social and socio-economic value to your spaces. Also, at the same time, we are looking at, there are different sizes of parks. So we have neighborhood parks, we have pocket parks, we have city level parks. So every ward needs to have parks, you know. So why should I move like more than 2 kilometers to 3 kilometers to reach my nearest park? So we are talking about accessibility to parks over here. The city authorities, we also are looking at why open spaces are being underutilized, and then we are complaining about encroachments. So this should not happen. So we are trying to control how area is developed as parks. We are also trying to provide a guiding document as to how future parks can be developed and how to operate and maintain them. Operation and maintenance has been a major hassle for Bhubaneswar, because we are developing parks on the go, but we don't have a operation and maintenance guidelines to actually control how they are going to be taken up later on. So we need a PPP mode for that. So we are also looking at revenue models where these parks should not be money pits, where we keep on putting in money and we are not getting anything out of it. So they should also be sustainable in the way, like the park should be able to maintain themselves with the income that is coming in. We are not talking about a paid parks to entry, but parks should be free to enter, but there should be some way to get money back from it. And also land reservation strategies, like how you should actually take areas for parks and open spaces over here, right? So this is the the 3 pillars of our master plan were like preserve, reserve, and sustain. So preserve is where we are talking about preserving the natural ecosystem. We are talking about how land resources should be reserved and how we can sustain such things, like how to sustain the existing parks and open spaces over here. So our city profile, we have a population of about 10 lakhs. We are talking about 120 parks. We are talking about 220 to more than 220 playgrounds within a area of 160 kilometers, the municipal corporation. But we are also planning for the development plan area, which is more than 1,000 square kilometers. So we have three zones, the north, the southeast, and the southwest. So also over here, we are talking about the three the aspects that we are taking into consideration is one is the child population, the projected population density. We're talking about the existing land use and the proposed land use at the same time of the CDP, the development plan that's proposed. At the same time, we are also looking into like in each of the wards. So which are the wards which have less children and which are the wards which have more children. So certain areas which are institutional, there is lesser need to actually give it more weightage. So we are trying to also see which areas should be given more weightage when we are actually proposing the next park. So you might see like population, high population, children population, we are also seeing like red. So these areas already have a lot of parks. There is an inequitable distribution of parks, like areas where there are high children, there are lesser parks, but areas where there are less children, they have been like given 11 to 12 parks. So that is one of the major problems that we're facing over here. At the same time, you can also see, so we have a lot of agricultural land within city boundaries. We have a lot of forest. This is one of the major forests. This is an elephant sanctuary over here. And there are a lot of deaths because of elephants actually taking the crossing the roads, you know. So that is why we are facing a lot of problems over here. At the same time, we are talking about vacant lands and wastelands at the same time. So we have also taken into consideration the proposed land use, which is also showing like where future public spaces have been proposed. So we have a lot of parks. So we are starting off the housing area parks, the neighborhood parks, on the basis of size, on the basis of programming. So there is also the community park, the city level parks where you have more programming. We are talking about attracting more tourists. This is not just dedicated for localities over there. So this is one of the parks that we had made. This was a smart park that we had made in Srinagar. So this had open art galleries and this is one of the types of colony parks that we were designing initially. At the same time, we have also started marking. This is as per URDPFI guidelines because India as itself, they don't have any organization like the NRPA, which we of course followed while we were actually proposing ours. But we took the population count as per the URDPFI guidelines. Also, we have Amrut, but Amrut is also not applicable everywhere. And they have only with the municipal corporations, they have some tie-up. So this also we had city level playgrounds like the stadium. We have the open spaces around the temples. We had water bodies which were around temples. We had open space around open drains. And at the same time, we had the informal settlements like the slums. So overall, we have around 468 acres of park. So every 10,000 people, we have around 4.8 acres. This we are already talking like wards which don't have parks. So you can see these are all the new areas that have been developed. So these don't have parks right now. So, but population is gradually they are increasing because all the high-rise like the apartments are coming up in these areas. Also, at the same time, we are talking about the inventory. So inventory, what we did is we actually we covered up all the 100, we took in like interns and we covered up all the 120 parks where we actually did an inventory of everything, every aspect of it, like whether the benches, how many lights, so that we have a count of and what is the condition, especially the condition that is there. So that we know like what we are going to propose it is, whether it is required or not. So that is one of the things. So this way we started also finding out geotagging them so that we can find out like future teams, they don't actually go. This Bhubaneswar Development Authority, the certain horticulture members, they didn't know whether the parks existed even. So this was one of the major problems over here. When you have a lot, you don't care about it. So playgrounds in Bhubaneswar at the same time, we have around 136 acres of playground. So that is good, like 1.4 acres. So we started marking them out. At the same time, we did this charrette in office itself, where we got local residents, we got children, and we took their immediate feedback so that we know like whether we are proposing, whether it is actually needed over there. At the same time, we also did some surveys in the local parks where we started looking about the condition of the parks and how they actually want to use the thing. So we started doing this, on the basis of which we started approaching our master plan. So also we came up with this need thing. So as a need, according to the URDPFI guidelines, we find out like how much acreage we are actually falling short of. So according to our guiding pillars, we actually started identifying the assets, at the same time analyzing like what is the use for each of them. So for example, you have the Chandaka forest. So how do we actually incorporate it? What kind of trails should we actually like preserve? What kind of programming should be there? How to strategize and enhance the value at the same time? And then we are talking about asset management system, where we are talking about like if we have something like a Chandaka forest, so who should actually be liable to answer like how it is being used? Because forest department owns it, but they say that the development is supposed to be taken up by the development authority. So some kind of ownership should come in over here. So we came up with these short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans. Short-term being 1 year, medium term is 2 to 5 years, and long term is till 10 years. Short term is like more on like small interventions which might enhance the value. Medium term is some kind of which is incorporated in the budget, and long term is we are not really sure about the budget, but it is part of the long term objectives right now. So in this reserve, we came up with like listing all the city assets, developing a planting palette, then having it part of the urban planting guidelines, because we didn't have one. So we developed it with the Regional Plant Resource Center. We came up with the amenity and infrastructure listing for each of which was part of the inventory, which was a long-term goal, but we actually did it. Adopting the parks and playground module, as in like we started making small modules for the parks, so that like anytime we actually need to make a yoga pedestal or we want to make a certain seating area, we have certain modules ready which can be adapted, like Lego sets, you know, so which can be fitted in, and you don't have to worry about the details. At the same time, it was part of the heritage master plan. In reserve, we are talking about reserving the spaces which are already there to prevent them from encroachment. Talking about stakeholder consultation on the programming, like how do we what kind of park do you need? Do you need a like we cannot make a senior citizen park in a school vicinity or like in an area where you have maximum number of children. At the same time, we are talking about like housing area and neighborhood parks should be according to the type of ward it is, not in a commercial ward. We should not be giving a neighborhood park. So in this, we again started listing of, according to the URDPFI guidelines, what are the different types of parks that we have and which are the potential areas that we have, which were part of the development plan. At the same time, you're talking about a procurement system, you know, because all open spaces in Bhubaneswar, they are owned by GA department, the General Administration Department. So BDA or the Bhubaneswar Development Authority, it is only developing the land. It doesn't own the land. So how do we actually procure the land? We also started on this nice thing called the shared playgrounds thing, where we are talking about areas which don't have open space left. So actually schools which have playgrounds, so Bhubaneswar Development Authority can develop the playgrounds for you, where we are asking like maybe after 4 o'clock, 4 to 6 something, it should be open to general public. So that is something we are working on right now. It is already like operational in 1 or 2 parks. So these are like different zones, how we came about. So we started marking out the open spaces and the proposed open spaces, like what kind of programming we want, like suppose like a rock garden or like a residential park. These are indicative, subject to change. At the same time, we're talking about like maybe like in the proposed parks, this is like a tourist destination. So what kind of parks should come up over here? So these are different wards we started doing. At the same time, when you're talking about sustain, so what are we trying to sustain? One is inclusive design, which is improving your livability, and we are talking about increasing the conditions of life or the values of life, and then enhancing the child-friendly, because child-friendly is one of the major things if you're looking over here. So new parks should be having like modules for basic amenities. We are also talking about 3 different. If a park is not achieving basic conditions, it should not be liable to go into the intermediate and advanced state, where you are getting an open gym, when you don't even have a path to walk on. We're talking about like strategic programming, where we are talking about for each park, because it might be that it is a small parks, but it is a cluster of small parks, which when put together or connected by trail, they can act with like a larger city park. We're talking about a play equipment palette, where like the play equipment that we usually get, it is not standardized. So we are talking about standardized play equipment, which will be there for all parks, or every time we are actually like going for a bidding and we are going to get new equipment. So that is one of the things we're getting. We're talking about child-friendly guidelines, where each park, the safety guidelines and everything, so everything comes according to child-friendly rules. Like a child who is, like I was talking about the Urban 95, he should be able to move around the park unguided. There should be security, security as in a visual security at the same time. In one of the parks, we actually decreased the boundary walls. So there's the mothers who are working in the kitchen or something, they can actually look into the park and the child feels safe. At the same time, we're talking about a greenway trail where all parks are connected. So this is from the point of connectivity where we are talking about all parks should be within a distance of 400 to 800 meters. So that is a 5-minute to 10-minute walk. So if this is not possible, then we are providing PBS stations, at the public bicycle sharing system, so that you are able to reach your nearest park more easily. So again, we are talking about a recreation cell, because right now we have different cells, like BDA has its own horticulture cell, BMC has its own horticulture cell. So BUKC is acting as the midpoint or the middleman, and we are like trying to guide both of them at the same time. And we are looking at potential revenue streams, where we are talking about like managing how to get more money out of it, or like how to maintain them at the cost, at low cost, you know. So as I was saying, the overall design guidelines are a walkable distance, community level parks where people start owning up the parks, and that actually decreases our maintenance, like our connection with RWAs through PPP mode. The different types of programming, instead of having the same walking path, open gym, and play area, which are like standard for Bhubaneswar at some point. And then we're talking about the equal distribution, like everyone should get parks. It's not like only the good wards or the central wards they get parks. I'm talking about eco-sensitive parks at the same time, where we are talking about like bird feeders, we're talking about bird zones. We actually, due to the lockdown, many must have noticed the birds have actually come back. So I think so we are looking at more plantation and less hardscape, you know. So programming being one of them, like we're talking about, we actually come up with a document like which is talking about how parks can be programmed, what are the different themes and programming that can be done, which is being done with the people itself. We're talking about a design palette where we are talking about what different kinds of modules, different materials that are to be used in the park. This is a play equipment palette I was talking about. So we have different types of play equipment that we might be using. We are already also working on something which is made from recycled material, which is called the Anthill clubs, where we are talking about recycled materials being used in play equipment. We're talking about a planting palette where native species of plants are being used, and we are trying to refrain from using palms as a whole, because it is not native to Bhubaneswar. That was one of the guidelines that we received while we were making this. In the revenue model again, so we have come up with different things like having a kiosk, like how Amul parks operate in Ahmedabad. So we were talking about the same. We have Omped over here, so there might be a PPP model over there. We are talking about something called the Loo Cafe, where you pay to use the toilet, but that money is also being used to actually fund. We're talking about different kind of CSR funding, which is there. Maybe like scrubbing the park area with some kind of play school who is paying for some time, which is being used again for the maintenance of the park, and different kind of programming on the basis of concerts and open air theaters, such and such things. So circular economy is also being implemented in the parks, where any kind of composting is also being sold. Nurseries are being established in parks, and material that is being used in the parks, it is recycled in some way so that it doesn't affect the environment. So this is the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, like the earlier loop that we had. So these are the main roads, the deep green ones that you are seeing over here. So those are the main roads over here. And we're talking about different connections. So this main road that you are seeing, this is actually connecting entire north to south over here. And also, these are the greenways that we are proposing. So the green entry zones, we are trying to mark like how the city entry should look. And this is also part of the Parks and Open Space Master Plan. So this over here, this is an entry to the old city. This is Dhauligiri, which is like one more like place of interest in Bhubaneswar. Different kinds of entry to the city that we are trying to define over here. So now coming down to the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, I'll just explain like what are the things that are coming up. So we have this zoo over here, so which is part like we are talking about camping over there. Certain areas have been given for urban farming, which we are trying to bring back because it was the original concept of Ebenezer Howard, which we are trying to get back over here. We're trying to talk about different zones for different youth. So youth zone is there because you have a lot of college population which is over here. Then we have the reserve forest, which is being one more of the spots that we are talk about over here. We're talking about like recreational plazas which are happening in some spots. We can get into the detail, but that will need a separate presentation by itself. We have the old city over here, which is part of the heritage conservation and master plan that is coming somewhere over here. Then sports trail is there, which is actually because on this road, we had the hockey World Cup, so a lot of development has happened over here. So we are also talking about how the approach to the stadium should become. So and a lot of marathons and all happen over here. So we are trying to make it a sports trail where it becomes easy for people to actually jog on the roads rather than in the parks by itself. Also, we're talking about the riverfront because the riverfront is untouched in Bhubaneswar, thankfully. So how a natural development can happen instead of like a lot of concretization. So and impounded water. So we are trying to get that to happen over here. So we have this. This is one more interesting thing that is happening over here. We have something called a lake zone. So lake zone is like 3 parts basically. But then what has happened is it's around the canal, and we are trying to make it like part of the entire city. That it becomes the largest park in the city. So how that can happen along the river. So that is also being worked out by Bhubaneswar Smart City Limited right now. Then a lot of eco forest and eco parks, picnic zones, like you can actually like work out. And then certain areas like the caves that I was talking about, that is somewhere over here, the Khandagiri and Udayagiri cave. So that is also part where we are talking about how to connect both the caves through a natural trail. That's it. Thanks. Hello.
Thank you, Swayam.
Yeah.
That was quite a very different view from the kind of presentations we've been having here. It's interesting to see how parks are actually being planned for the city, and you know, how does one sort of see the larger view rather than just looking at one part of it. So for the audience, if you've not come here before, please ask your questions in the chat box, and you can ask Swayam. You can give his views on that. So there is one, I think, comment that has come, Swayam.
Yeah.
What are the new kind of challenges you see as per the welfare and well-being of the people that are there? Was not there earlier, I think, or at least not planned for.
Yeah, like we are actually taking that pretty much ahead because we think the IAP2, like you might be knowing, the public participation thing, we are actually taking it into consideration. We are not, like earlier what used to happen is like we have to have a standard formula for any kind of park. So what is happening right now is for any park we are designing, we are going for a stakeholder meeting, and we try to have a larger population there so that we are able to get their points at the same time. So it's never just our point. We do design over there itself. Like last one we had it in a temple. So any public space we find, we go to them, we get that. So also through surveys and everything, we have social media posting which happens. We have a social media team with Bhubaneswar Urban Knowledge Center who actually help out with such things.
Yeah. Oh, can I request you to stop presenting your screen?
Yeah, sure.
So we have another question from Bijoy here. So during your share, and I think I was also going to ask the same thing, that during your design charrettes, what are the kind of inputs you generally receive? Are they really design related, or are they, you know, sometimes in another direction?
Yeah, actually not sometimes, it is most of the time. So out of 10 questions, 7 will be like really personal factors which usually don't matter. So like one was in the smart parks that we were designing. So it was like 4 parks which were separated by roads. And then what we did is we actually connected all of them and made them into, they were like right parallel to each other. So what we did is we connected all of them. So what happened is when we presented the design, so a lot of people actually complained that you are making us move so much more. We are not able to get our, but that was actually a blind spot where it was very dangerous for children to actually cross the road into the next park. So what happened is we just explained them with Google Earth over there only. Like you are moving only 350 meters. So what is more important, 350 meters or the safety of your child? So it was good enough for them. But then there are also people who get very, very angry with you. So one of them said that you are placing a gate in front of everyone's house. You should also place one in front of my house so that my child is able to enter. So we have to ignore such answers.
Yes.
That is where the layman and the
These are very difficult questions to answer. Sure, of course. But I mean, just to add to that question, do you think that, on the whole, do you think that this design charrette and public participation, is it a positive process or is it a very challenging process?
Yeah, so design participation, I would say, like the charrette thing, na, it is actually a seed thing. So I won't say it is the final thing, because a landscape architect will always apply the science that he has learned over there, right? So this is more over like how you can get your brain working on what are the things that don't work. When you see something in front of you, it is usually where you'll say, "Acha, ye wala to nahi hone wala. This is not going to work." So that is where the design charrette works. But in the stakeholder participation thing, you get to see from the point of view of the person also, like whether we actually, because in a majorly, like one of the parks that we're designing, so there was a large part which was being used by the temple in front for parking during Rath Yatra, which is one of the major festivals over here. If it had been done by a landscape architect sitting in his room working on the computer, I don't think it will be possible to understand the local context. So that is where it will help out if you actually get down on ground. We have to leave it open for them.
Right. So that's very important.
Right.
That's interesting to know. We have another question from Ravi Kumar Narayan, and he's saying that we've been using these parks, and especially children have been using them innovatively and very different from what they're intended for. So can you share some experience of, it's very different from the way you imagined it, or people have found out new things to do with the same kind of design?
It is like I have both two experiences, both good and bad, right? I'll talk about both. So the good experience was one place we actually made the benches a bit bigger. So we never expected the children over there to actually use it to play land and water, because the play area was right next to it. So we had actually imagined like, and during the afternoons, because it's a very hot time, so actually people come and sleep also on that, which we don't mind, but it's a separate use which we had not foreseen. But then one of the other things was we saw that visibility is one of the major factors that helps. So as I was saying, we decreased the wall height, but we also gave a watchtower in that area. So watchtower, what happens is first 2 levels, it's fine, that nothing happens. No, but once you go up now, so people started smoking over there, people started smoking up over there. So it was a big problem. So we needed to have security again. So some kind of connections we need to have, make sense.
Absolutely. And I have a question from Sanjeev Baum here. How do you cope with builders and land mafias while developing this large-scale network-based plan?
That is the best part.
Or do you have any experience?
That is the best part. That is the best part, because while working with the development authority, you don't have to worry about that. We have a very nice enforcement team over here. We cleared up a slum because we thought that there was open space which was intended, and we actually found a large lake over there inside the slum, which was there. So we are now planning a park over there. But also with the land mafia, what has happened now in the lake zone that I was talking about, so a lot of people had left their drains into the lake area, because of which boating could not happen anymore. So recently, Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation, we started using cement. We actually blocked up all the toilets. Every drain that was actually falling in, we started, and then we had complaints of choked drains, which are happening throughout the entire length. So we found out which are the people who are actually throwing the drains into the lake over there. It's nice. I actually plan out a lot of it.
So you must be going on site a lot.
Yeah, a lot of site work.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. So Professor Shishir has a question here, and he's asking that did you look at any case studies benchmarking for your parks?
Yeah, so one of the case studies, because my project leader, he had already worked on the project. So it was Mount Dora, which is proposed in the United States. That is one of them. Certain others, like we got into what's the future plan for Central Park, because we were planning something on the lines of Central Park. So certain US, we took a lot of influence because we didn't have much from India. We didn't have any parks and open space right now, but then we had examples in the, I think so, Ottawa. We found one in Ottawa. We found one in Edmonton. Few of them we took from there. So certain examples we have taken from there.
Right. And then it's another task to sort of see how.
Yeah, how many of them will be, how it will fit the Indian context. So some of, we actually added, like the major chunk of it we added on our own, but Indian contextualizing something which is Canadian or US, it's very difficult. So we had to actually change standards for population, standards for like, that is why where URDPFI and Amrut actually came in.
So maybe you can create a documentation of your parks and like a guidebook that other cities can follow.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up because the documents are already ready. We already have a inventory and everything ready. As soon as it is published, I'll probably share it down.
Yeah, thank you. So Umya has a question here, and it's very interesting. She's asking, how do you think these spaces can be designed in terms of today's scenario, especially with social distancing norms coming up?
Social distancing.
I mean, do you have any thoughts?
So see, I cannot increase the size of the seesaw, you know, just because the distance is some way. Certain things, I think, so the user has to be a little more aware. That is probably educating the user where we are talking about programming. We are, like, even our signage, we were designing the signage also for most of the parks. Probably some kind of information or some kind of awareness program is the only key, because you cannot tell a person the size of the height of the steps are going to be more because the distance between two people is going to be more. So that is not something how we can work out. So it's probably going to be more on the awareness between the people that is going to work over.
So it's like a soft skill that you'll have to educate people.
The education part actually, like, because when it is senior citizens and everything, it is very difficult to actually give your point of view. And in between also, they have a lot of infighting which is happening because my point should be heard. Sometimes it is easier to say yes and go ahead than do your thing. Sometimes.
True. Of course, it's always a very difficult thing. So Rajendran has a question here and asking that what are the measures you've taken to bring ownership and sense of belonging in your designs?
Right. Like as I was talking about the programming part, so we had certain programs in which we are talking about community gardening. So we found this interesting example in one of the parks that we were doing is, it was a wedge park, which was between a very small space, you know, like 0.2 acres hardly. So what had happened is people, they were actually planting trees, whatever plant they find, they were actually planting over there, so that Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation doesn't start making it a dump, and the builders around, they don't start making it a dump for their construction material. So what happened is, once this we designed it, we again handed it back to the person over there, and we always find some person who is taking a leadership role, so that what happens is he's actually able to tell the people or not around, as in at least a visual connection with the park, so that you know, like when somebody actually does something wrong, they go and tell them in the park itself. That is another thing. Yeah,
I think many places they also have these community sort of park ownership groups, or it's something like that. I don't know.
Over here we have walker associations. You know, walker associations, they are really very they own the park. Basically, they own the park. They don't have any paperwork, but they own the park. So what happens is, whenever we go ahead, we first find a walker association. So once you find the walker association, you know that you don't have to worry about anyone else, because they are the most vocal. They will be using the park every day. So they actually, when we go for our initial site visit, there are many times people will say, we found this person who is urinating, you tell him not to urinate. I said that there are certain things we can't do.
Also that happens. No, but I think they're as important for the health of the park.
They are very important. So that is why we sometimes start organizing them. Even if there is not a worker association, we start planning like how these people can be organized into some kind of association at the same time.
Thank you. So Parisuta has a question here and is asking that can you elaborate on the surveillance systems that might have been installed?
Right. So also as we are BUKC, which is part of IBI, we also have something which is known as the ICOMC. So surveillance system, what happens is, each of these parks, we have smart poles, which are like giving Wi-Fi connection to the entire park area, where you can actually use the city Wi-Fi over there. At the same time, it is like also with the Smart City Limited, there is like this CCTV which is being given to parks which are being developed right now, not the existing parks. And other than that, we have security, which is already part of all parks. So that is the only three things we have. And these are connected to the like the Bhubaneswar control room, which is there, so that any problem, they have refuge buttons and all in the smart poles itself, where you can actually, in case of any problem or anything distress, you can actually call up the city directly.
So, related question that I have.
Right.
So, have you sort of actively looked at timing the access to the parks, or is there a sort of a BDA level
there is a city rule. So like parks open at 5 o'clock. Earlier, what used to happen, like in the middle, around 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I think so parks were closed for maintenance. But right now, all parks are open from morning 5 o'clock to night 9 o'clock. As a result of which, we have also increased our surveillance and the security thing at the same time. This is city.
Yeah, so that I think that is another decision that the community also helps in taking in.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Sachin has a question here and is asking on providing access to reserve parks, and were there any measure taken to preserve the sensitive ecosystem?
So as per the ownership, as in I'll always say like Forest Department actually owns a lot of these reserve parks. So Forest Department actually charges because these are larger parks and they are more sensitive. So they charge for entry. But what Bhubaneswar Development Authority, what we did is we actually incorporated a cycle trail inside the elephant, this thing. So 2 forest jeeps, they accompany us, but then you are able to cycle around the entire sanctuary right now. So you pay 100 rupees, but it's worth it. So that way we feel that you actually paying for the use of the cycles, and you have a guide along with you who tells you this is where elephants come, and this is so it's a very nice thing and a very scary thing at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to ask. You have wildlife in the parks and cycling there.
Cycling is there in this thing.
Good. That's interesting. Kavita has a question, which is so one part of her question is obviously linked to the COVID condition which we talked about, and our other question is that what is the on-ground status of this park level?
On-ground status, we were supposed to design 67 parks, that is 1 park per ward. Out of that, we have completed around 17 or 18, and we are like, this is like 4 years down because we are also doing a lot of urban design in Bhubaneswar. We are doing the Parks and Open Space Master Plan. At the same time, we are also doing the Heritage Master Plan at the same time. So certain things we actually fallen short. But after this COVID situation, probably it will be small retrofits in some of the parks, because we have certain things where there is in Bhubaneswar, because of the colonial design, you know. So we have this backyard, the scavenger lanes, you know, between 2 lanes of houses, you have this drain. So in some areas, we are trying to convert that into art streets and, you know, like more accessible areas, because that is a lot of area. When I was calculating, it is coming to around 9.8 square kilometer of area, which is in scavenging lanes. So we are doing certain small units, you know. So I was just doing it for the sake of a paper, but then I started telling my team lead, and he was very interested in providing a design for it.
So how does it work? Are you involved only at the planning stage, or do you guys actually do the detailed design of the park?
We do both. We do both. So as I was telling the team, we have urban designers in our team. We have landscape architects. We have architects. We have planners, urban planners. And then we also have communication experts. So because of the mixed team, we do everything right from the signage to the map, wayfinding, we do entire CDP. So that is where BUKC is actually, because it is in-house, it is more easy. Because you don't have to put a tender out every time you have a project. So it is very easy to just call us out and say that you have 1 more park to design. So that way, there is a load always. You never know if you're going to reach that deadline.
So from large scale planning till execution of
yeah. To streetscape, to everything, those street design guidelines, everything you're doing.
Sarang has a question here, and I think in part you may have answered it. He's asking that how does the city's religious activity influence your design? Maybe related to the Puri.
The religious activity, it is very concentrated to the old city area. But even after that, we have been able to remove a lot of newer structures and clean up a lot of open space, because of which the old city, it has, I was also about to present the Bhubaneswar Art Trail. So that was also part of the same thing, you know, where like we are trying to incorporate the art trail inside the existing heritage walk that is happening over there. So that way, we are doing certain interventions, but I was also talking about how temples and everything, they if they complain or they provide us with a solution, we are definitely ready to incorporate it in our design. That way.
Okay, Madhumita has a question where she's asking, what are the design measures in terms of safety and security that?
So one more thing, just for the previous one, just one more incident that happened. So there is a ISKCON temple over here. So what happened is they had actually encroached a lot of land over here, so which was actually causing urban flooding in the city. So the encroachment team, when they actually removed, so we got a lot of curses also, you know. They were like shrap, aap hamara ye mandir tod rahe ho, and they're getting a lot of that. So that way, religious activity is actually influencing a lot of public planning.
Sure.
In terms of security of the users, especially.
Security and safety measures. You talked about the smart pole. Is there any design sort of integration, line of sight or anything?
Like I'm trying to understand. It's like specially gifted. You mean like children with special needs?
No, I think it's generally for children.
Oh, they're generally for children. Yeah.
Especially for children. But for the users, but especially for children.
So one was the thing where we are trying to make it very porous. The entire thing, we are trying to make it very porous so that people are able to actually look in, like you have the visual security while you're actually moving in. Then we are talking about how the access to the park. So we are doing tactical urbanism in some parts, so that there are rumblers, there are different kind of pavements around the parks itself, so that like where you have a tabletop or something, because of which traffic slows down. So we are trying to have more traffic calming measures around the parks. Then when you're talking from the point of view of children, all seating, like some seating, it is at 450. We are also providing seating for toddlers at the same time. We are having like any kind of like right from there. Then open gyms we have at one spot. We also have the EPDM flooring, everything, because you don't want people to get hurt, because children try to use these as rides, you know. So some kind of thing we need to have below. So we are trying to incorporate as many as possible. It's still learning, so we are still learning every day. Something new,
absolutely.
From our mistakes also we are learning a lot.
Better than the previous. So Professor Shishir has another interesting question, that how does your plan, what does it offer to the have-nots of the society? How have you looked at that?
Yeah, so I'll talk about that. So what happened is, we in the have-nots wala thing, 3 lakh out of 10 lakhs, it is in slums right now in Bhubaneswar. So in that, we have come up with finding organic spaces, as we have also mentioned, like finding organic spaces inside those areas, because they are very dense. We don't have space, and they are very possessive about who is getting there with a bulldozer. So we don't want that kind of interaction over there. So we actually went down, we found community leaders over there. We started planning smaller playgrounds. Parks were not possible because of the maintenance issue, but playgrounds, we have actually provided a lot of around 5 playgrounds till date, and we are also planning for 15 more which are coming up. So these are called the Anthill. We are doing it in collaboration with an organization called Anthill. So they are actually like making equipment out of tires, out of this. And so with that, we are also giving the regular equipment. So it's very fun because children paint it themselves, and there is a sense of ownership again.
Oh, that's very interesting to me. And I think Bobby sir has a question where he's saying that you have a constant kit of parts. What would be the landmark for, how would you sort of separate each part from another in terms of its uniqueness? What is your idea?
Achha. One was the programming part, where we are talking about like what the different kind of programming that comes in. That is one of the things. Along with that, there was like in the smart park that we're doing, we had this, one of the parks had a open classroom thing where the nearby kindergarten students and the college students, they can come over there. So you can have your classes outside, how we have in SEP. But then also, we also have this open art gallery where children, children, I'm talking about maybe young art students who are not able to like get a entire gallery for themselves. They get it free of cost over there. So we certain things in point of programming, but we also making a sculpture park where Tata, I think so, Tata has sponsored an entire sculpture. So certain kinds of, individual things where children actually recognize like, what is this thing? We have this thing called a robot park where there is a huge robot and then the hands are the slides. So those kind of certain elements which actually identify the park from being separate from the next thing, because otherwise everything is lawn, a walking track, and open gym. That is like all parks in Bhubaneswar otherwise. So we are trying to incorporate. It's a retrofit, that, as I was saying.
So if the programming is the strength, I think that's interesting.
Programming is one of the main things that we are trying to bring, trying to change at least. Like we don't want the regular, like the yoga session. So we are bringing in blocks training where we have the boxes already made in the parks and people can use them for exercise rather than bringing your own boxes to the thing. And tie-ups with a lot of agencies which are actually helping us out.
Interesting. As a question, but I think you already answered it, that your document is under process and probably be able to share it once it's ready.
Yeah. Once it's ready, once it's published, right.
Roshan has an interesting question. What kind of water management has been incorporated into the parks?
Okay, so we were working with WAPCOS. WAPCOS is the organization which is already working with water bodies in Bhubaneswar. So they had done a lot of study with that. So also with that, existing water bodies, what has happened is because of the open drains and a lot of dumping that is happening, we actually have to make a lot of STPs, the larger STPs which are coming up on the drains itself before they reach the main channel. So those we are trying to propose. Those are part of our lake zone development that we are already proposing. So those are like, if you want to get into nuances, that's a separate project, separate presentation by itself, the lake zone.
I can understand, obviously. Yes.
So,
Well, that's an interesting question. He's asking that, do you have a guideline for development carried out by developers or builders? So is there a sort of a co-creation guideline for private developments?
Right now, it's not there because the public, we are more working with the parks and open space. The public spaces right now, we don't have a command because builders, they try to find the loophole, so we are not giving them any right now. It becomes a rule once it's out.
Right.
So we also have the public arts master plan where we'll be trying to define more of the spaces which are left out in the parks and open space master plan. So that brings only to the city public spaces right now. We are not looking at anything which is within the ROW of the roads and the control of the GA department. That's all we are trying to use right now, rather than anything else.
Right. I'm not the right sort of authority on this, but I thought that under the Amrut or the Smart City Mission, there were possibilities of creating local area plans for each area, and those LAPs could actually define the interface between the street and the private development.
LAPs, they work only when you have some kind of a PPP mode, which is working with the developer. That happens because I think so. Dopayan had once said because the land was given to the mall to develop because it was within the ROW and it was outside the zone of the mall, So, but it was actually within the city. So that was the agreement with the Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation. But there is no rule right now where I can develop my ROW without the permission of the city. So that is where the guideline is actually missing out. So for anything, we need a MOU to be signed to develop any kind of public space on basis of which. We are doing PPPs though. We are trying to get more CSR funding for the road landscape that we are developing, but not for parks. We don't have for parks right now. Most of it is like...
No, the LAP, no, I think Kapil's question, if I were to see it in another sense, so sort of mulls over the fact that can you link these private, let's say, common plots to the larger network of open spaces that happens in Bhubaneswar, so that you are only looking at guidelines of how these private sort of open spaces are oriented maybe or accessed, something like that, rather than just opening them up to the public.
private spaces, as in like which is part of the complex, but then it is only happening like what the major problem with Bhubaneswar Development Authority is, if there is any kind of provision in which general public is able to access your open space, only then will we be like interested in actually designing or taking up the upkeep of the entire space. That is what.
So that's absolutely what is happening. So in Ahmedabad, we have LAPs which are still in progress. They've not been yet defined for completion. What happens is that the LAP says that in addition for for some additional FSI or something, you actually create pedestrianized zones through your property. These are just pedestrianized zones, not vehicular zones.
Right.
And these pedestrianized zones are designed at a city level such that you create thoroughfares which are not necessarily related to the vehicle thoroughfare. And then the common spaces inside those private areas also become part of the movement. Something like that.
Okay. Okay. So I have to check it out for Bhubaneswar if we are actually doing. So it'll probably be happening with the municipal corporation. There's very low chance that we are doing it with the development authority because Amrut is entirely their headache. We don't get into it.
Right. Sure. Tanushree has an interesting question. So what are the different elements that you're using for designing the parks? Like, I think you talked about the smart poles or anything else.
Yeah. In the smart parks that we're talking about? Yeah.
In general, for the parks. So what are the kind of elements that you sort of thought of?
It depends a lot on the programming, as I was saying. It's again on the programming that I'll be coming back. Certain things is we are trying to bring in, if we are getting water, we don't want to have the regular water body, so we want more of the thing like where you are able to interact with the water. So we have these splash parks and all which have right now come in. That is one of the things. So in the smart parks we have like children can actually run through the water rather than like getting. So any kind of element that we have, it is from the perspective of the children itself. Also spaces like incidental open spaces that we have. So something like which is between two parks, we are trying to develop them into sports areas. We're trying to put just maybe two poles and people are able to like play volleyball. It is very much dependent on the site condition itself. So there are sometimes like, one of the elements that we have recently been working on, it was the library in the parks where we have small library kiosks, inside the park. And if you are like just walking through on a summer day or something, and you just want something to read, and then you can just keep it back. Of course, that is when we are thinking Indians are very truthful and we don't steal. In that philosophy, so we have library in the parks right now where you can actually have a coffee and you can like read a book and then keep the book back and pay the coffee at home.
Sure.
You think?
No,
very utopian situation.
No, I think those are required. No, I've seen that happen. So, recently in Ahmedabad again, I read locally. So, I read about a community refrigerator, and what they did is they said that the particular colony, so decided by a colony, they put a refrigerator outside. Of course, they've sort of locked it and kept it somehow. But everybody who has extra food sort of keeps it in the refrigerator, and anyone who requires it can take it. So I'm saying that if you think about it openly, obviously there will be more than enough people who want to donate books, even if they go away after some time. And,
that's the thing that you say. So that is already there because that is the intervention where we have it all around the city. It is not inside the parks especially. Then we are coming up with different things such as like, the compost thing that we are talking about. We're talking about pink zones where it is like entirely a ladies only zone for some time in the day. We're talking about flea markets which are coming up in the park. Everything is actually part of a greater programming. So because we said that if we are getting a flea market, then you don't have to have like permanent shops over there. We came up with this new thing that is there that started in May, I think May started in February, and then it ended due to COVID. It was the Park Utsav. So what happens in the Park Utsav is like how you have the Rahagiri, but Rahagiri where you have to control traffic and there is a lot of like hassle, because the police is there and everything. You have to stop traffic for these many hours. Park is a much more guarded part. So we started having it in different parks. So larger parks, they were having like music and everything. That is one thing we did without the stakeholder interaction. As a result of which, there were like about 100 to 200 like angry these things like, why do you play so loud music in the mornings and I'm there for yoga? We didn't think about that, so now we have started zoning out our parking. Difficult.
Yeah, but it's an interesting concept. I think it's required. Yeah.
Something. So we are doing all the paperwork for that also. Out of like other than the design, because we think that design happens really fast, but that is when it's in private. In the government, what has happened? Like I was telling you, like I've made more than 20 RFPs and DPRs. The paperwork to actually get the design approved is very difficult. Very difficult to actually get it done.
Yeah. We have probably time for one last question, and Shreya is asking pointedly to you that wouldn't it be better if each park was designed by a different designer? Of course, the overall planning could have been comprehensive, but sort of.
And then I'll just say, like, people are not ready to move to Bhubaneswar. I am the second landscape architect of Odisha. I was checking ISOLA listings. So if you are planning to come down to Bhubaneswar, please let me know. It's very easy to say from a distance that we should have a different team. Of course, there are two of us. One is from SPA, one is like Karishma Shah, like Karishma Sharma, if anybody must be going. Karishma Rai, sorry, will be angry. But then we are there. There's urban designers also there. Anybody might be knowing from CEPT itself. And entire team is CEPT, SPA mostly. So anyone else, if you want to come down, please come down. It's a very we have fights. So if you want to come down, you can come down, definitely.
Okay. Thank you, Swayam. Thank you. This was very interesting and very insightful to see how the city plans the open spaces and how do you get it down right to the execution, and also then programming and how do you operate these things. I think that's very important. It was insightful for me to see that. Yeah. Thank you, Swayam. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Next time we have Ankur Jajpuria from Jaipur, and he'll be presenting on site-specific responses. Thank you. Bye-bye.